mynews.studio.
Norway's $3 billion pledge to a global forest fund is putting indigenous communities at the center. Do you think this approach could really change the fight against deforestation?
Right. And just to note, today's date is 2025-11/22. To get us started, what is the Tropical Forests Forever facility exactly? And why is Norway's commitment getting so much attention?
So the T5F is a new fund led by Brazil, designed to reward countries for keeping their tropical forests intact. Norway's $3 billion pledge is the biggest one yet, joining $1 billion each from Brazil and Indonesia. The main idea is to mobilize up to $125 billion, bringing in both public and private money, and pay countries each year based on how much forest they actually keep standing. That's all verified by satellite.
That's already different from the usual piecemeal conservation grants. But why tie payments to satellite-verified forest cover instead of, say, conservation plans or promises?
Because it's concrete and transparent. Instead of supporting vague commitments, this system pays for actual results. So how much forest remains, not just what's pledged on paper. And for the first time, at least 20% of the funds are set aside specifically for indigenous peoples and local communities.
That's a big change. But how do they make sure the money really gets to indigenous groups and doesn't get stuck in bureaucracy or lost along the way?
The governance structure includes indigenous and local community representatives, not just government officials. There's that mandatory allocation you mentioned, and the UN Development Program is stepping in to provide technical support so communities can apply and access funds directly. Plus, there's independent monitoring and public reporting, which help track where the money actually goes.
But with the World Bank acting as trustee, is there a risk these funds could end up supporting projects that actually harm forests instead of protecting them?
Asset allocation rules specifically rule out investments that could damage forests. The fund is designed so it only rewards verified preservation or increases in forest cover. If a country loses forest, payments are reduced or stopped altogether, so there are real consequences for deforestation.
Let's talk about the scale. The goal is $125 billion, but right now, only $5.5 billion has been pledged. Is that enough to make a difference, or is it just a drop in the bucket?
It's definitely just the beginning, but the ambition matters. These initial pledges, especially Norway's, are meant to signal commitment and hopefully draw in more private investment. The idea is that over time, as the model proves itself with transparent results, it'll build trust and bring in more funding.
And in terms of impact, does this fund only focus on trees? Or does it also help local economies around these forests?
It's both. Tropical forests are key for absorbing carbon, which is essential for climate goals. But the fund also aims to support sustainable livelihoods for people living in these forests. By rewarding preservation, it tries to make standing forests more valuable than cutting them down.
Any risks or challenges you see with this model?
A few, yes. Making sure the money reaches the right people is always a challenge, especially in places with weak institutions. Political changes can also shift priorities. A new government might not focus on forests. But the performance-based and transparent design helps reduce these risks. Regular satellite monitoring and independent checks make it harder to manipulate the system.
What about accountability? How can we be sure the data on forest cover isn't being manipulated?
They use independent satellite monitoring and make the data public through what's called the Country Access Platform. There's technical help for countries to report accurately, and third-party verification is built in. There are also penalties if countries are found to misreport.
Zooming out a bit, why should someone outside Brazil or Indonesia care about this?
Tropical forests are the world's largest carbon sinks and home to incredible biodiversity. Their preservation affects climate stability worldwide, impacts rainfall, and even influences food security. If these forests vanish, meeting global climate targets becomes nearly impossible. So the stakes are global, not just regional.
So if I'm hearing you right, Norway's $3 billion pledge and the launch of the TFFF could set a new direction for how we finance and measure forest protection. If the transparency and equity actually work as planned.
That's right. If this model works, it could set a new standard for conservation finance, focusing on indigenous leadership and measurable results.
That was an in-depth look at Norway's pledge to the TFFF, the challenges and opportunities in performance-based forest funding, and why it matters to everyone.
Thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now free of charge.